Ah, Good evening, everyone. It's Sam here with Sacred Oak Temple in Edmonton, Alberta. Just like to take a second to note that this is the fourth anniversary of our online Esbat rituals. In that time, we've missed one, October of last year. Anyways, today is new moon, March 10th, 2024. And our theme today is sacred stories. We begin by acknowledging that we're located on Treaty 6 territory. A traditional name of Edmonton in Cree is Amiskwachi Waski Higan, which means Beaver Hills House. This place was the traditional meeting ground for many indigenous communities, including the Cree, the Saulteaux, the Nakota Sioux, Blackfoot, and the Métis. In Wicca, our goddesses and gods are not separate and apart from the land where we live, so it's important that we connect ourselves to this place and introduce ourselves to the spirits of this land. I offer tobacco, and I ask for permission to be here and help to belong here. Now, everybody, settle yourselves comfortably in your seat, or as you're standing, rock back and forth until you're comfortably balanced. And take a deep breath in and hold it for a sec. Now release it. And in. And release. And finally, in and release. We are now prepared to enter sacred space. This is a place that is not a place, in a time that is not a time, halfway between the worlds of gods and mortals. This is a place that is all places, a time that is eternity, where gods and mortals can come together. And this is a place that is our home, in a time that is our lives, where we can be greater than we thought. And now, everyone, I'm going to call the directions, if you could follow along at home. Behind me is the east, which is the air. Let me tell you a story about the power of the air. The air, we say, is thought and freedom and logic and reason. It's both the first breath of a baby and the last breath of an elder. When we call upon the air, we call upon the power of imagination and the power to create. Welcome, air. To the south. Let me tell you a story about the power of fire. Fire, we say, is passion and anger and energy. It's movement from intention toward our goals. It's both the desire and the fulfillment, the passion and cool determination to see our dreams become plans. When we call upon fire, we commit ourselves to our dreams. Welcome, fire. Let me tell you a story about the power of water. Water, we say, is emotion and intuition. It's beauty and pleasure and wonder. It's the satisfaction of purpose and a meaningful life. When we call upon water, we pay tribute to the beauty and the pleasure and the joy of life. Not here, not in the abstract, but here and now, in work and creation. And we honor ourselves as we experience those things. So, welcome to water. Let me tell you a story about the power of earth. Earth, we say, is substance and experience. It's food shared with love. It's a home where we are safe. It's work that gives meaning and direction. When we call upon earth, we commit ourselves to make our dreams into realities. Real homes, real accomplishments, real relationships. Welcome, earth. And at the center, the power of spirit. Let me tell you a story about the power of spirit. Spirit is all of those things that never happened but always are. The goddesses and gods, the ethics and virtues, the ideals which make the rising ape meet the falling angel. Enter spirit. Blessed be. Now the theme of today's working is story, sacred story. Let's start by considering the difference between the sacred stories of polytheists and monotheists. In monotheism, these sacred stories are scriptures. They're written by the god. While in polytheism, we know that Homer and Hesiod and the playwrights and the poets were individual humans who were reflecting on the divine, not themselves gods. The gods and their worship are created by human beings and exist in society, and so they can change as society changes. When we create a sacred story, we know that not only the gods have stories, and not only the gods have the sacred moving through them. A story will tell us something about life. A sacred story will tell us something about the forces that make life exist and have meaning. Now I'd like you all to take a moment. Think of a time in your life when you felt the movement of grace, when you saw someone for the first time and you instantly felt a connection to them, either friendship or love. When something that you encountered in an otherwise ordinary day, a perfume, a taste, a piece of music, the texture of a piece of cloth, the beauty of the blue sky in the summer, struck you with awe or joy. What story will you tell about that moment? A sacred story, we have to understand sacred stories. We have to begin by being open to the flow of meaning and power into our lives from the story. Not to analyze it or to make sense of it, but to open ourselves to be moved by it and to make meaning with it. Stories point beyond themselves toward the underlying causes and the essences of humanity and life on earth. Rather than seeing the surface meaning and approaching the story shallowly, we need to read them allegorically. Now, the sacred story that you're telling about yourself. What is underneath it? What is the deeper meaning of it? We tell sacred stories. We have to tell a story, not for itself, not to teach, but to allow it to become whatever different thing it will be in the heart of the person who hears it. It's not a plot or a random assortment of words, but it's a song or a play or an experience. Who are you going to tell your sacred stories to? And how will you make these stories live? Let's take an example, the story of Romeo and Juliet from Shakespeare. Romeo and Juliet could lead us down that romantic wormhole to the twin flame notion and the ultimate and impossible monogamous ideal of a perfect lover. What is the twin souls myth or the romantic portrait of love pointing to, though? What ultimately is its sacred context and its content? It points us to our desire to not be alone, to be completed and fully understood and loved unconditionally without limit. It points to our desire that our journeys will end in peace. Now, this longing and this desire is not proof of anything. The world is as it is. It's partial, it's a mixture of pain and pleasure, accomplishment and disappointment all together. But if we see this story as not a scripture, not a fact, we give voice to our longing and our desire, and we can find beauty instead of pain. Stories in polytheism are a kind of language. They're a language that we can explore the world through. Our stories translate these experiences, these special experiences of grace, to a common language. The deities speak to us, and they speak through us. And the gods get bored of people who have no stories to tell about their lives. So, we've gathered together and considered individually the stories of our lives, the sacred in our lives. I don't have answers for you. My stories are not your stories. If I tell you mine, they might spark something in you, or maybe not. But it's important to tell our stories to ourselves, to find that our lives have meaning, whether or not they're meaningful to anyone else. It's time to bless and share food and drink. It's not I who bless food and drink, but they who bless me. For in their nature they nourish our bodies, and when we share them, we create community. And thus it was in ancient times, and so it is today, and so as we go on into the future. May you never thirst. And may you never hunger. Have something to eat and something to drink. Share food and drink with me and with whoever in your circle at home. And of course, give some to the gods. And now, to thank the divine mysteries, the goddesses and the gods that are revealed and concealed in the workings of the world and in our own lives. I'd like to thank Mercury, the Roman god of communication, Ishtar, of many stories and attributes, the Lares, whose stories and attributes are particular to me, and the Muses, Clio, Euterpe, Thalia, Melpone, Terpsichore, Erato, Polyhymnia, Urania, and Calliope. Let us remember that these things never happened, but always are. Each god, each goddess entails another. They are all together, enfolded, in the great bed of myth, and their tolerance is essential to their natures. And the stories that we tell are not the mysteries that we experience. Nevertheless, blessed be to the center. To the north, let us celebrate real homes, real accomplishments, real relationships, and anchor our hopes and fears in these concrete, measurable things. These real things can hold our experience of the mysteries. Let us thank the water now for reminding us of the beauty and the pleasure and joy of life here and now in our work and creation, and honor ourselves as we experience these things. Blessed be. Let us celebrate and enjoy our dreams and desires without believing them. Our desires alone can lead us to believe lies because they make us feel good. Thanks to the fire. To the east, let us celebrate the power of imagination and the power to create. Let us, however, not mistake our stories for the reality they help us to explore. And blessed be. My friends, the circle is open and yet unbroken. Merry meet and merry part, and merry meet again. The next full moon will be on the 25th of March, here at 7 p.m. When the hurly-burly is done, we'll have another temple organizing meeting. I'll post the details in an announcement on the temple Facebook page. Please contact me if you're interested in helping out as we move towards public circles again. And blessed be.